Okay, this is a video about sexual immorality. So with sexual immorality, primarily and basically, so the basic understanding is that it's any sexual practice outside of marriage, outside of holy matrimony. Okay, so that's a basic understanding. But in um, in a marriage, at least a marriage that you do on earth, you're married to a person, right? You could practice things like you could like introduce other people, other spirits, inappropriate like objects or whatever. You could integrate violence. You could integrate violation, and so it's not consensual, so it's not done in love, and so that means again, basically, any sexual practice outside of holy matrimony is the advanced understanding. Okay, so that's to say that you can practice sexual immorality in marriage. It's easily done. It's done all the time, um, and therefore it's not the correct thing to do. So moving on to the teachings in the New Testament, right? So the New Testament teaches a few things, right? So namely, in 1 Corinthians 7, it says, paraphrasing, every man should have his wife and every woman her husband to protect from fornication. Okay. And then you also have, I can't remember the verse, it might be in a similar passage, similar chapter. It's, it is good to not basically consummate the marriage and to keep your, like fiance, wife, pure. That's to say, no sexual relation. And it also says it's good to keep single. So, I guess conclusion: the only moral sex you can have is in marriage, but not all sex in marriage is moral. So we are restrained and contained to the marriage bed to practice sexual morality. However, there is, we're very creative people and we can integrate immoral practices in the marriage bed, like I mentioned before, multiple partners, or even if we're referencing to this new teachings, the New Testament teachings, it says that it's good to not consummate the marriage and to keep your fiance or wife pure with no sexual relation. So there may be times where, for instance, if you married someone who's like 20 or 30 or whatever, and they have the body of a child, it needs to like mature in some ways or something, or it's just like stuck as a child, and to do like the sex act would be like harmful and not fruitful, and it would turn into an immoral act essentially. So if the only relation you can have would be immoral while being, married to someone, then it's a good thing to just not get sexually involved, right? And that would be the good thing to do. It would be as good as if you stayed single, and it would be as good as if you practiced the sex but in a morally good situation. So another example would be, your wife doesn't want to, you know, do it with you, and therefore to force her against her will, or to be brutal with her, or to violate that her will like that, you would then be practicing immoral sex. So it wouldn't be good in holy matrimony. Okay, all right. So there's this other idea, right? So you have the Prophet Muhammad. And the Prophet Muhammad, at one point near the end of his cycle, he went to a Jewish village and he slaughtered them all. And I believe he may have slaughtered more than one Jewish village. In one example, one of the women survived and cooked Muhammad a meal, and then poisoned the meal and died. Muhammad died. That's how he died. But I think there are other instances where he killed Muslim villages in their entirety. Sorry, Jewish villages. So what he could have done, right? Because he did go into polygamy and stuff. What he could have done was gone in and been like, I will sacrifice myself for, all you Jews should die and have the wrath of Allah, but I will sacrifice myself and I will marry all of your women, and I will do the good thing as the Injil teaches, and only consummate them if it's a willing and moral thing, and that means that all the women and the children, right, would be then married to him, and it would be a moral, good, holy thing, right? But sadly, Muhammad's path didn't go like that. He married a 6-year-old and consummated the marriage when she was 9, and that's highly it's looked down upon. But yeah, and it's no good. It's no good at all. So, from Christian ethics and morals, we gain in the society laws, very strict laws against the relations with underage people, because it is a dangerous act. Never mind the psychological. It's a dangerous thing because the body is underdeveloped, and so the point is that all sexual immorality should be banned, and you should be prosecuted for it, like in Dubai, how they will kill you for having illegal sex or put you in prison at least. I believe that should be everywhere. However, in the West, built from a Christian foundation, we've been practical and pragmatic and just banned it for the most dangerous periods of the person's life, and then because of the liberal left infiltration, because not too long ago it was illegal to be gay, and it was illegal, adultery was like a crime and stuff. Um, Regardless of that, it's after certain ages, 16, 18, you're legal to do it however you like. Muhammad could have turned it around. He really could have turned it around, and but he didn't. I think a go away message is that it's as good to be single as it is to be participating in holy matrimony, and how it's also good to be married and to have no sexual relation is also good. Um, if it's possible, because you know you can see this the Holy Spirit in Paul here, that recommending that every man should have a wife and every woman a husband, because there is the danger of committing fornication and adultery and sexual immorality, and if that can be contained to the marriage bed, as it should be, as it's designed to be, then it should. However, in different situations, to have no relation with your wife is the best and moral choice, and therefore should be taken, because or just staying single and staying away from it all. Also, these are all good ways to go about it. Right, that's like a brief overview of sexual immorality, and what can we do against it? How can we like fix it in ourselves and in others? Is a really really good question. Um, Definitely shouldn't be tempting others or causing them to stumble on this stuff. That is not a good idea, um, because that is just comes straight from the devil. Because God doesn't tempt us, but He will allow the tempter to tempt us. And so, if you are a vessel and you are um, participating in the temptation of man to fall into lust and to sin and practice sexual immorality, that's like a really really terrible place to be and to be doing, and you're just working for the evil one. And so how the Muslims interpret this is then they start to make their women dress up, and really just to really stop that possibility from happening of the temptations. But so that's one way that one culture has approached it. Another way another culture has approached it, you could say the West, and we're just leaving it to be free, allow people to do what they want, and we expect that the citizens will have a self-control sufficient enough to avoid. And I believe that's true in a Christian nation, because you have Christian men, Christian women. They understand what humans are like, because as followers of Christ, Jesus came as a human, came for the lost, came for the understood, was friends with the prostitutes. So understanding our inclinations and proclivities, we would do the most in our power to not cause another to stumble. And so we would take precautions, like dressing modestly and using good language. And that's the point as well. In a society that is based in with a Christian foundation, you have the promise of the Lord that there will never be a temptation for you that God can't give you the strength to overcome. So a prayerful man would be able to overcome these things. A prayerful man in a Christian community, in tune with God in a Western society, would be able to control themselves through trying the promises of Jesus Christ, through having him in mind, through walking with him. But we are all distracted, and we get torn and taken astray, and we are in a we're kind of in a post-Christian but also neo-Christian revival in the West and in the UK, a little bit in the States. And so it's tricky. So we're all on this generational freaking landing point of a country that was built on Christian values but now isn't Christian, essentially, in many, many, many ways, at least with the citizens. And we're trying to approach sexual immorality in ourselves and in others, and we're trying to stop it and halt it using new technologies. But yeah, it's a very, very ancient issue, and there are a lot of ways that we can go incredibly wrong approaching it, like we see in other cultures. Yeah, it's a big one. Anyway, that's my video on sexual morality. The purity of God is amazing and intense, and this is what he asks of us. And just best of luck to all of us. And knowing the problem is 90% of the solution, so let's all get informed. Okie dokie, bye bye.